Hi, if you're watching this, you are probably interested in leadership, or you might be interested in starting your career as a writer. The question is, are some people more likely to be successful in life? And are some people born to be leaders? The short answer is yes. And there are certain markers to look for in one's earth instructions or natal birth chart. Astrology and numerology can help us interpret one's life path. And some people have markers for leadership that are kind of signifiers that they will be people that create something that changes the way things are done. But of course, leadership isn't just about luck. Leadership is about the hard work that comes from you staying true to your path, to your authenticity, and working actively to achieve what you came here to do, because it is hard work. And some people are more successful than others because they are working consistently to achieve that, to release that potential that they hold. Without further ado, let's look into the profiles of 10 writers that were born to lead. Stella, writer and light worker, here to inspire positive change. So once again, I've kept the faces hidden, but you might have guessed who some of the writers are. One is not born to their purpose, one steps into their purpose. That is the first thing to mention, which is quite important. There are 12 signs, 12 houses. Each of the sign belongs to a house, and each of the sign belongs to a number, or is connected to a number. So that gives you an indication of your life path a little bit more, and it gives you an indication of, once you start to interpret your houses, your natal birth chart, and you see where those houses are, it will give you an indication of how you're likely to act and what you're here to learn. But the thing to remember about your sign, especially your sun sign, which is the main sign that you have in your astrological chart, natal birth chart, is that every sign belongs to an element, is connected to an element. And there are 4 elements, universal elements: air, earth, fire, and water. The 5th element is your spirit, your connection to source, your soul in some ways. And the quickest way to spot a leader is to look for A, J, or S in the first, second, or last name. Names that start with A, J, and S, first names, we have a marker for leadership, that someone is here to lead the way by paving a new path. If the second name starts with A, J, or S, this is a marker for somebody who's here to lead the way by empowering others. And then if we have A, J, or S in the last name, this is someone who's here to inspire others through leading by example. And these names kind of correlate to the first names is your sun sign, the second name moon sign, and last name rising sign. And then the sun sign is the energy you need to embody to accomplish, in order to accomplish your purpose. The moon sign is the identity that comes natural to you because you've mastered it. Think of your consciousness as a database of information, and your moon sign is kind of the research that you've already done. You've already unlocked that information. It's just a matter of you remembering it. You're going to be acting from that point of view. And your sun sign is the energy that is not quite familiar. If you were born to lead, but you didn't have a marker for in your moon sign for leadership, that means that it might be something that you're learning for the first time. But in some cases, you have marker for leadership in the first name and in the second name, which means that not only do you know how to lead, or you have read books, have understood information about leadership, to give you an example, you are now here to embody that. You no longer worried so much about understanding what it is to lead, because you already know how to lead. Now it's time for you to pave that new path. And of course, the last name, the rising sign, is how you're going to connect with the rest of the world and communicate that vision with the rest of the world. So this is going to be the way that you communicate with everyone. And it's important because the way that you communicate with people sets not only the tone for the conversation, but how much you understand yourself and other people, and how much you understand yourself will help you to connect with others. So the first writer that is most known for his speaking, not so much for his books, even though they're equally part of his legacy, is Anthony J. Robbins, also known as Tony Robbins. So this is a leader who has a water sign in his sun sign, Pisces. And so his leadership is going to impact more than just one generation. It's leaders who have a water sign create a ripple effect in society, just as is with Ariana Huffington. She has a water sign as well. Now, the difference is that Ariana Huffington is in her feminine energy, so she's paving the way using her feminine energy, whereas Tony Robbins is more in his masculine, which is quite natural. But there's a marker for leadership in his second name as well. So he is here not just to pave a new path, but also to empower others, which perfectly suits him as a motivational speaker. He enters these big spaces, these big rooms, and he empowers every single person in that room. And because he has a sun sign in a water sign, that means he's able to reach them beyond the level of the mind, beyond the level of the thinking, and have a change of heart in them, bring a change of heart in them, which is something that comes very natural to the water signs. They operate a little bit deeper than other signs. And so if they are not balanced themselves, they might use that ability to manipulate others to get their way. But when they are balanced within themselves, they're able to empower you on a deeper level. His last name is corresponding to the number 9, so the search for meaning. So he's here to open up a space for exploring the meaning of life. And if you analyze the content of his work, it's all to do with making people see things from a different point of view, from a different perspective, and kind of changing their belief system, their values, their priorities, and helping them see life from a different lens, one where they can own their power, one where they can be successful, one where they can make their dreams come true, but in a very practical way as well. So his life path is resources, self-esteem, values, material security. And this is why the kind of like the link comes between him entering these spaces where he's empowering people to take control back of their life. And some of that control comes from the material security. And so his teachings aren't just within the realm of the spiritual stuff. So he's not just uplifting people's spirits, he's also guiding them to become leaders in their own lives. And leadership isn't just about leading a movement in life, especially if your purpose as a leader has a marker for empowering other people. You are empowering them to remember their own power, to lead a difference in their own lives. Very successful, very aligned. And, you know, you might miss out on the fact that his name starts with A, so 2 markers for leadership, because he goes by Tony Robbins. But now that you know that there's 2 markers for leadership, it kind of shows the impact that he's created, and that kind of like aggressiveness that comes from his style sometimes isn't necessarily to do with not necessarily why don't you listen to me, but more to do with the leader in him really wants to empower people. There's a duality with I'm allowing myself to take up this space in the spotlight because I was born to be a leader, but also I was born to empower you. So I want to make sure that whatever space I take up in the world, I'm bringing you with me because I need you to listen to the message that I have to say, because that message holds the keys for your empowerment. The next, the comparison that I had put here is that there are the same style of leadership, 119. So 2 markers for leadership, and the 9 was search for meaning, is the same profile of Joe Rogan. But the difference between the 2 styles of leadership is that Tony Robbins leads with, sun sign and a water sign, and Joe Rogan leads with a sun sign and a fire sign. So the best analogy I can give to you is, imagine you were in the sea or in the ocean, and the weather wasn't the greatest, and the wave kind of moved you somewhere, or you were suddenly submerged in the water and you found yourself somewhere else. So the water is going to move you from point A to point B. You might be moved to the left, to the right, or you might be moved further in the sea, or you might be moved towards the shore. The point is, because water is a force that moves you, a leader that has water, that leads from the water sign, is going to move you, is going to show you a different perspective. It's going to show you something that you didn't quite see before. But with a fire sign, what happens when you play with fire? You might get burned a little bit. What happens when you burn something? You remove bits of it. So a leader with a fire sign might bring that spark of inspiration to you, and you might get even a little bit of a stink from it. But it's not designed to destroy you. It's designed to remove that which no longer serves you. Remove the unnecessary layers of conditioning, of false beliefs, of illusions. And once again, if the leader with the fire sign hasn't mastered their own element, they might actually, use their position of power or use their element to sting you on purpose. But when they are balanced, they're able to reach you in a way that removes that which no longer serves you, that doesn't serve your well-being, that doesn't serve your growth. And both types of leaders are able to reach deeper than the surface level of conversations, because they're bringing you deeper within your own psyche, within your own understanding of the world, and how you can apply what they're giving you to better your life. The next writer, born to be a leader, is Stephen Edwin King. So we've got an earth sign. So if you look at his legacy so far, he has 70 plus published books. You can see the difference right away. Tony Robbins is someone who is connected to the stage. Joe Rogan is someone who's connected to the podcast. So again, two leaders that use their voices a little bit, use the ideas a little bit in their unique style, because they're creating these resources for the conversation, for leadership, for self-empowerment, self-esteem. But we do have a different type of leader here, someone who leads with ideas that are grounded. So you can buy these books, you can use these books, you can buy the DVDs for the film interpretation, from the TV interpretations, which is very typical for a leader with a sun sign that is an earth sign. The second number in his name is linked to creativity. So invite others to use their right brain, follow the passions. Again, the moon sign, or the second, the middle name, indicates what you have already mastered. So you're here to inspire that within others. Yes, use it, especially in unity with your sun sign, your first name, but also pass the torch forward. So not only use creativity because it's something that comes very natural to you, but use it to inspire other people to be creative, to find their own passion. And finally, the last name, or the rising sign, is to resources, create opportunities for resource exchange. And if you think about Stephen King, who's been labeled as the king of the horror genre, he is inspiring a lot of fan clubs around the world that continue the stories where they have, where he has finished them. They continue, fan clubs, fandoms, Comic Cons, a lot of events that are inspired by his work, a lot of ideas, a lot of book clubs that not only discuss his ideas, but also they use his style to start their own careers, to use his ideas as the foundation for creative writing courses and exploration. So it's not just him, everything about him, it's also what impact he's created in the minds of people. Because if you look around and you visit your friends, your family, I guarantee you they probably have at least one book with Stephen King's name on it. And that is the power of a leader with an earth sign as their sun sign. They're able to materialize these ideas. They're able to channel their ideas into things, into the physical world a little bit more. And so his overall path is that of transformation. And it's only natural to think about some of his ideas to be a little bit more mystical, out of this world. He has dedicated a lot of his work towards Some of them horror stories, some of them psychological thrillers, some of them sci-fi stories, but they all bring some sort of transformation when you read them. There is a sense of magic in them as well. And I think that's linked to the creativity, using more so the right brain than the left brain, which allows us to accept magic as part of our everyday experience and not just rely on the logic. But by all means, this is a writer and a leader that has impacted the literary world and also the content that we're watching on TV in a massive way. A lot of the best adaptations and movies and in TV series have been influenced by his style or are literally based on his novels and short stories. And there is a comparison to be made here where we have two leaders and two writers that have produced books, both of them, that are both following the path of transformation, but they're completely different styles. So Stephen King, connected to the earth sign, grounding these ideas, producing these books. They're physical copies. You can use those books in a book club. You can use those DVDs when you visit your friends. There's always this physical element, posters, you name it. Whereas with Simon Sinek's leadership, it's the idea, it's the conversation around ideas. It's this ongoing conversation, these courses that he's creating, these workshops that he's creating, these events that he's creating, where people keep the conversation going. And that's the difference between a leader with an earth sign and a leader with an air sign. That's kind of the sun sign, the leading sign towards the one's soul purpose. They're both transformative in their own ways, but the air sign is always going to keep the conversation going, the ideas in the air a little bit more, whereas the earth sign is going to ground them in one way or another, whatever the field, whether it's in the creative industries, whether it's in the financial industries, or in the commerce field. Next, we have Adam Grant, who is an organizational psychologist, and you wouldn't be that surprised when you see 4 in the mix. So starting with the first letter, marker for leadership, with the fire sign, so somebody whose ideas can trigger some sort of awakening, remembrance, ideas that can reach quite deep into your own psyche and mind. And the second aspect, the second letter, the middle name, leads to 4, which is the number for the home and the mind. So he's here to invite others to explore their roots and their subconscious mind, the psychological side of their existence. Why are they here? What are they here to do? And finally, his last name leads to the number 7. So he's here to do that through to inspire and expand through forming alliances and collaboration. That's kind of the glue that holds his stepping into his soul purpose and achieving his soul purpose in this lifetime. So the overall number for this is communication. Using his presence to communicate through communication, creativity, self-expression, thinking and speaking. And if you follow his career, you're going to see that he is he joins a lot of conferences, he joins a lot of workshops around the world, and he's always part of some sort of collaboration, of conversation, which helps him deliver the message in a way that is aligned with his soul purpose. Yes, he's here to lead the way by paving a new path, but the only way, and I say only, it's the best way for him to maximize on his potential is to partner with other people, to explore these collaborations, to share the stage with other people, so that there is a bit of a conversation going on, a bit of a discussion, a bit of an element of exploration that happens before your eyes, especially when it comes to using the number 4, the psychology. Using psychology in conversations can be quite transformational. And, just because we call it the subconscious mind, the part of ourselves that isn't as explored as other parts, doesn't mean that we need to think of it as something scary. On the contrary, we need to normalize having these conversations around what motivates us, what makes us happy, what brings us down, what can we do to become better performers, and how our own habits affect us, and how um, our our belonging is affected by our motivation in the workplace as well. And that's, a lot of Adam Grant's career is about that, discovering your motivation and your place in the world, and how you can operate with more purpose, to be more purpose driven with everything that you do, which is very much linked to his leadership with the fire sign. Next, we have Margaret Eleanor Atwood. So, a leader with an air sign, but her leadership isn't within her first name. Her leadership is actually within the last name. So, she's here to lead by example, inspiring others through her being the example. And the first letter corresponds to the number 4. As I said, 4 can be linked to psychology, can be linked to the subconscious mind. So, when the sun sign, when your soul purpose is linked to the number 4, that means you are here to dive deeper in the subconscious mind yourself, so that you can show others that what that looks like, that it's not that scary. And in some ways, for some people, it might actually be, because it means spending some more time on your own, figuring out your triggers, for example. But because this is the domain, the air sign is the domain of the information, knowledge, and intelligence, it is a deeper dive into the subconscious mind that almost can be documented. And with 5, the creativity marker, as her second name or moon sign, she is not only a creative force herself, but she's also inviting others to use their right brain, to follow their passion, to express their own creativity, to find their own creativity. And if you think about both motivation and creativity have everything to do with looking within, what makes us happy, what motivates us, what inspires us to create, finding our own spark within us. And it's quite an interesting profile for her, because she has created The Handmaid's Tale, and that is a book that inspired huge conversations around a lot of conversations around our values. So this is a book that used her talents, her skills, her soul purpose to guide us, to push us into thinking a little bit deeper about our own choices, about our own priorities, so that we don't end up living in a version of the world that kind of resembles The Handmaid's Tale. Her path is that of achievement, that of recognition, that of career and public life. And in many ways, The Handmaid's Tale kind of made the mark, her crossing the finish line of fully aligning with her soul path and soul destiny, because that book that later got adapted into TV series and might get even more adaptations into movies. It's a very important piece of fiction that can be used to guide people deeper into their own subconscious mind. So if she's here to inspire others, leading by example, and her sole purpose is to dive deeper into the subconscious mind, whatever she creates is guiding you to dive into your subconscious mind. And The Handmaid's Tale does that in a very creative way, where she's not calling out people, she's not calling out patterns and perhaps certain types of leadership in the current system, but she's using creativity to guide you to your own explorations, to your own life, and where you can do better, where you can start to make these choices that contribute to making the world a healthier, more positive place, more aligned place, where there's more unity, where we look after one another, where we support one another. The next writer who's a leader is James Clear. So he has no middle name as far as I could find on the internet, which is fine. It still works. We're still able to get a profile out of him. And I understand that sometimes people don't have middle names as well. Sometimes people have 4 names or 5 names. That again can add to their profiles, can add to their earned instructions for their current lifetime. So marker for leadership in the first name, sun sign, air sign, somebody who's here to use his ideas, his knowledge, his intelligence, his information to guide, to lead the way by paving a new path. And the glue that holds it all together, his communication style, is all about communication. Authentic expression of ideas is the key for him to complete that soul purpose, to step into that soul purpose. And he's created the ultimate book, Atomic Habits. If you have never read it, I completely 100% recommend it. Whatever you're reading, stop reading it and go read Atomic Habits. This is the book that the manual when you are embarking on a self-growth journey, when you're embarking on a spiritual awakening journey, when you are going through a period of your life where you just feel like, meh, is this all? I'm sure there's more. There is a lot more. And with books like Atomic Habits, you can actually use them as a step-by-step guide on how to unlock more of your own potential and also discover what is it that you want to do and apply those daily actions to get in alignment. So his life path is psychology, all about home, family, roots, psychological foundation, and subconscious mind. And once again, Atomic Habits is the proof of this alignment. But what's quite interesting here is we have two leaders with the same path, two leaders that have the same sun sign, the air sign, the same type of energy, the same type of leadership style, where they're going to lead with information, with knowledge, with ideas exchange. And they are both on the same life path of psychology. And yet, if you're familiar with both of them as leaders, with how they operate, you automatically know they're different. James Clear, very impactful, very positive related leadership, but it almost feels like he's starting the conversation. He's starting the conversation to gently guide you to, you engaging more with his work, with his resources. Now, with Andrew Huberman, we have somebody who not only is on the life path of psychology, but somebody who has already carries that database of information in his consciousness because he's already mastered that. He's already reached the depth of the subconscious mind. He's already mastered that. He's already unlocked that. And not only that, but he also has 8 on his profile, the numerology profile, numerological profile. And 8 is the number of transformations. So every conversation, or rather every time you engage with something from his podcasts, his ideas, they will transform you automatically because you can bring them and change your life instantly. And even if you don't apply them right away, hearing them is going to be transformational for you because he's bringing you insights from the depths of the subconscious mind that he has access to without drowning. Because to explore the subconscious mind takes patience. I would say patience, but also it's not a domain that's easily available to everyone. So very powerful ability to ground these ideas and have conversations around them. But they're both leading, using their voices, using their ideas. But the way that James Clear is doing that is through guiding you to where to look so that you can, engage more with it. Whereas Andrew Huberman is giving you pieces of information, nuggets of information that transform your life right away, straight away, because he's able to extract these conclusions from a very complex domain of information, the subconscious mind, and psychology as a whole, because he's guiding you to how the body and the mind actually operate, the invisible processes, whereas James Clear is guiding you how you can start to improve your processes, the visible side. Next, we have J.K. Rowling, leadership with a fire sign. So very purposely driven, leading with passion and with confidence, firmly rooted in her beliefs. And if you are aware of her story, she got a lot of agencies to kind of not agree to publish her book. And yet she persisted. She knew that this was what she was meant to do. And she stayed true to the course. To the calling, and rightfully so. The second name suggests resources, so she's here to invite others to be part of the resources exchange. And finally, she has a marker for this search for meaning, to open a space for exploring the meaning of life. So Harry Potter is one of the most creative books, franchises to come to the market in the last few decades. And yet, there is no marker for creativity here. Why? Because the greatest power of Harry Potter does not lie in the creativity, I would say, even though it's a very creative book. She's on the path of communication. There is the creativity link here, self-expression, thinking and speaking, but there is no marker for creativity in her individual first, second, or third name. But the number 9 is key here, because this is the not only the search for meaning, but I'll bring you back to Steve Jobs, who did the marketing strategy, the creative strategy, the branding, the business strategy of Apple, and his whole life path was all around higher education, which is all about the philosophy of life, the search for meaning, the mind expansion, and the journeys, so the life journey. So these stories that take you far and beyond from where you are, but you can see them. You can see the glimpses of a future you that already has the dream, already has completed the dream. You just need to take it step by step. So the greatest power of her profile is actually the last name, the last number, 9, the search for meaning, which is closely linked to higher education. So if you think about Harry Potter, you're not just reading 7 books and watching 8 movies about a boy that goes to school and gets attacked by the evil forces. No, you are actively attending that school with Harry. You're actively learning the life lessons with Harry. And that's the greatest strength, I would say, for the Harry Potter books and movies, is that they bring you universal themes, universal lessons. And if you zoom out from the way they look, the way they talk, their names, if you zoom out from all the details, you are essentially enrolling into a school. So this is your continued education with the franchise that has been designed around values in life, priorities in life, that talks about friendship and love and courage. And these are very closely linked to some of the universal laws. So the greatest strength of Harry Potter, as much as there's creativity in it, is not actually the creativity, but it's the fact that it talks about the continuous education. And look at the audience of Harry Potter. Both children and adults love Harry Potter because we all love learning. And when it comes to learning by exploring these universal themes, that is how we learn how to be better human beings. And the current curriculum at school is lacking that. It's missing that. It's missing the soft skills. It's missing the empathy. It's packed with a lot of information that is designed for the logical mind, but it's not challenging enough the aspects of ourselves that make us better human beings. It's not challenging us to think for ourselves. It's not challenging us to look out for one another. It rather creates competition against each other. And yes, Harry Potter has competition as well. And obviously, Gryffindor is going to win always. 20 points to Gryffindor. But yeah, it's very interesting to look at the profiles of some of the most successful writers and leaders and see how we connect them to one thing. And sometimes actually, if you zoom out, their biggest contribution isn't in that. And with the case of J.K. Rowling, she's very creative. She's using her communication to impact people. But the biggest impact is the marker for this continued education, the higher education. And I mean, just look at Harry Potter. It's literally 7 books that all take you back to school. So nothing is random. Everything is connected. Seth Godin is the next writer I've chosen. Marker for leadership in the first name. And this is a leadership with the water sign. So we have, once again, a leader whose ideas are going to have ripple effects, a little bit of a delayed effect in society in some ways. But the more time passes, the more the ideas will reach more people, and the more people will discover the value in his legacy. We've got a marker for creativity here with the second name, which is inviting others to use their right brain to follow the passion. And once again, if you examine his books, they talk a lot about using your creative thinking more so than your logical and practical thinking. Even when it comes to sales, he's one of his books is all about that the greatest salesmen are storytellers. They're not persuading you why their product is the best. They are giving you the greatest stories. And by doing that, they're reminding you that at the end of the day, we work with humans. We don't work with the companies. The company is designed by a human, and you're going to interact with a human. And if a human can entertain you and present you with these beautiful stories, with these impactful stories for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, what a pleasure it is, or it's going to be, to work with someone like that. And his last name is linked to partnerships, to inspire and expand through forming alliances and collaborations. So a little bit like Adam Grant, he's here to bring those ideas to forums, to stages, to partnerships, webinars, where there's an exchange, where there is equal give and take, so that people kind of bounce back these ideas and and maybe boost each other's creative thinking simultaneously. So this is the path of psychology. Once again, there's a lot of psychology in this list. And I think with these leaders, these big thinkers, it's no wonder that they are both naturally attracted to psychology and they guide us to psychology. It's because they are helping us see beyond the surface, connect on a deeper level. And that's the marker of a great leader as well. Somebody who can understand you in a way that they can target your pain points, they can understand your needs and provide you with solutions. And this is kind of the middle ground between the writers and the leaders and the motivational speakers. In order for their message to resonate, yes, there is an element of authenticity, but there's also this idea that they understand their audience. They understand what their audience needs. And when you have a writer who's also a leader and they have creativity, they will be able to tell you a story that not only delights you and captivates you, but it also teaches you something. It also guides you into seeing the world from a different perspective. And with Seth Godin, the leadership marker is within his first name. So he's leading the way by paving a new path. And I would say paving a new wave of thinkers using the water sign, but also understanding that this is the domain of the ideas psychology. The next writer with a marker for leadership is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Hopefully I pronounced that correct. So we have an earth sign in her chart, earth sign that is within the number 3, so communication, and grounding those ideas into physical items, such as books. Her path is that of discovering and channeling her most authentic self-expression. That is how she's going to be able to utilize the most of her potential. And with the marker of creativity in her second name, she's here to invite others to use their right brain, follow their passion, as much as she's following hers and communicating her authenticity. And this is where leading by example comes into the picture. By embodying her most authentic self, by expressing these ideas, by channeling her creativity and grounding it into books, into physical things that you can engage with, she is able to inspire others to find their own authentic voice and find their own creative ideas that they want to share with the world. Her life path is that of higher education and the search for meaning, philosophy of life, mind expansion, and journeys. So she's not only here to lead you by example towards using your creativity and being authentic, but she's also here to kind of educate you through some of her ideas. And if you remember how she kind of went viral, had her viral moment, it was with her short book around feminism. So she challenged some ideas and she brought your attention to aspects of society that you can educate yourself around. And her greatest power, the way that she could truly align with her destiny and fulfill her potential in this lifetime, would be to keep creating, to keep expressing that authenticity, but to use her life story, her examples, her experiences, and also her research to keep creating resources, to keep creating these ideas, to keep channeling these ideas that educate you, that challenge something within you, that makes you think, how can I contribute? What the search for meaning? How can the people that look up to her can bring that attitude into their own life, perhaps to be better thinkers, bigger thinkers, bolder thinkers. Yeah, one of her lines was, the women are often told you should be successful, but not too much. And that is precisely the kind of statement that guides us into questioning, why do we believe that in society? Why do we keep having that message in society? Next, we have on the list Stephenie Meyer. So another earth sign, Capricorn, and this is the most solid earth sign, as I like to refer to them as the stones of the astrology. And again, we have a missing middle name. But what I noticed when I was researching her was that her maiden name was Stephenie Morgan, and then she married and changed her name from Stephenie Morgan to Stephenie Meyer. And we had that we tackled that question with Michelle in the first kind of conversation around Born to Do It, where if you change your name in the process of marrying, that will naturally change your overall number, your life path number. And for some people that happens because you kind of level up, or you switch because your higher self is guiding you to shift your priority, shift your focus, because you've learned something and now you need to learn something, you need to research something else. But with her, she preserved that, she preserved the life path of creativity because she was born to do that. She came to do that. And so we have the marker for leadership within the first name, and then we have 4 in the last name, which is the number for psychology, for the subconscious mind. So she's here to increase understanding around the subconscious mind. That's the glue that holds her achieving her soul purpose and becoming that the person that can do that. And her life path is creativity. And if you think about how Twilight became such a huge phenomenon overnight, that once again, every household had a copy of Twilight. And people are still talking about Twilight. People are still having conversations around, are you Team Edward or Team Taylor? And this is the impact that a leader that's in the earth, that has a sun sign that's an earth sign, can have. They're able to ground these ideas, they're able to channel their ideas into physical items that make it to households. But because she used the psychological aspect when creating Twilight isn't just about vampires who kill each other, who attack people. They are ultimately stories or series of engagements within between the characters, where they explore their thinking, they explore their motivation, they explore their what drives them, what makes them stay loyal to a certain group, what makes them want to be part of a different group. And maybe it's not the most psychological book ever, but it still guides you to think that way, to start analyzing it. And it kind of links to her using that reference to psychology and the subconscious mind into her work, because ultimately she's not here to guide you to psychology. She's here to create, she's here to entertain and to make life a little bit more fun. And Twilight does that. Ultimately, it still has a link to the psychological aspect, but it's more to do with, I'll give you a book to entertain you, to distract you a little bit from the world that we live in. And the actual books hold a lot of a lot more depth than the movie adaptations. That is my personal opinion. You can have different opinions, but if we refer to the actual books, the what started the movies and the conversation, they do hold some really interesting and some of them really beautifully written conclusions about life. And the final leader, I think, on this list is Jordan B. Peterson. So leadership marker in the first name, somebody who's here to lead the way by paving a new path. And as an air sign, he's going to do that with his ideas, with his information, with his knowledge, with his intelligence. And as we've seen, some of the stories around him, some of the stories around his ideas, they can be a little bit controversial. They can be a little bit divisive. They can be a little bit thought-provoking. But ultimately, he's here to do that. He's here to present you with ideas. He's here to create the conversations. And so his second name is a marker for resources. He's here to invite others to be part of the resources exchange. So once again, somebody who's here to activate others to be part of the conversation. And with the last name leading to 7 partnerships, he's here to inspire and expand through forming alliances and collaboration. So all about ideas exchange, all about being in the public sphere. And his life path is that of achievement. So achievement, recognition, career, and public life. And the more people are talking about him, the more his ideas will make it to their psyche, to their mind. And what's really interesting about his life path is that it is the same of the life path of Jeff Bezos. Obviously, 2 different leadership styles. Jordan Peterson has an air sign as the sun sign, and Jeff Bezos has an earth sign. So Jordan with air and Jeff with earth, 2 different forces. Naturally, Amazon is a little bit more grounded, a little bit more physical into the material world, and Jordan's is all about things in the air, ideas in the air. And if you look at the numbers as well, this is how they, the 2 differ. First letter, same marker for leadership. The second name, second letter, so we have 2. With Jordan, he is here to guide people to engage in the conversation. He's here to give them an opportunity to be part of that conversation so that the 2 can communicate together, 2 or more. With Jeff Bezos, the number 7 in the second name suggests that he's here to empower them through collaborations. So it's not just about ideas exchange here anymore. It's about the empowerment through these partnerships. So the more he partners with people, the more he's fulfilling his soul path and the more he's empowering other people. And with Jordan Peterson is the other way around. The more he's talking with people, the more he's creating these collaborations and these partnerships. With Jeff Bezos, the more he's creating these partnerships and these collaborations, the more there's an exchange of items going on in the world, an exchange of resources. So everything is linked, everything is connected. Naturally, there are certain aspects of these birth charts that we don't have access to. Such as what is the actual energy or sign within the moon house and the rising sign, and also what houses do they belong to. But you can start to map out one's whole identity from the day they're born and guide them. Imagine if the education system had access to that. Imagine if therapists had access to that and they can guide people to unlocking more of their potential. Just to throw that idea out there. So one is not born into their purpose, one steps into their purpose. And the self-growth journey is really the defining factor. If you're born to be a leader and you have big ideas to channel, I'll use J.K. Rowling as an example. She had struggles. She had a lot of rejections early on in her life, but the path of leadership was calling out to her. She had to channel that idea. And she would not give up until she was to express that idea with the world, because everything is kind of connected, and some events are a little bit fated. You cannot stop certain events from happening, especially when it comes to these ideas that need to be channeled, that need to change the status quo. But individually, even if you don't have a marker for leader, you can still be a leader. And I think the biggest idea around leadership is that you can be a leader in your own life. And the way to lead in your own life is to take ownership of your actions, to show up with accountability, to say every single day, I can do one thing better. I can eat healthier today. I can maintain my friendships better today. I can be a more caring husband, wife, daughter, son. One thing today. Commit to one thing every single day. And all of this, as part of your self growth journey, isn't going to be as difficult and as burdensome because everything starts with you. And the more that you invest in becoming a better human being, the more you're going to be of service to the people that you love the most, and the more you're going to be able to make a difference in society as well. Hope you found this useful. And if you have any other ideas as to the types of leaders that you'd like me to examine, give me a shout. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And if you want to discover your soul purpose, book a call with me and I'll be happy to help you start to work with different aspects of your natal birth chart, starting with your name. Yeah, thank you for watching.